Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next XPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
Welcome to Africa's Next with Macron. Africa's Next is an initiative of Voice to the Nations and Break the Silence organizations that seeks to throw the spotlight on entrepreneurship as a developmental, industrialization, and continent building and advancement. Africa's Next is a special entrepreneurial mentoring program that is set to mentor Africa's next superpower generation. We aim to achieve this by pairing seasoned entrepreneurs with a passion for African development and advancement with up-and-coming entrepreneurs to provide direct mentoring and access to funding for the entrepreneur endeavors.
My name is Macron. The show is Africa's Next. We're going for a quick commercial break. When we're back, we introduce you to our guest for today, who will be giving us details about how and where it all started and how he's making income to Africa's Next. My name is the Macron.
Thank you to Break the Silence and Voice to the Nations for being our proud sponsors. Thank you to you, our special audience, for tuning in. You are with me, the Macron. We'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're talking to our guests. Stay tuned. Remember, you have to send a message to Africa's Next on Facebook indicating a mentor you would like to be paired with to learn from.
Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next XPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
It's an honor to host you tonight on Africa's Next.
It is. I'm also grateful for the opportunity, and good evening to your distinguished viewer. That's a great question. People actually ask that question, and I say, Chef Elijah is the doctor in the kitchen. It is a young man that comes from Ipiapi Mampong, who has the passion to actually growing up. I wanted to become a medical doctor, and I tried as best as I could. So I went to Aquinas. I studied in Aquinas. I did science. I could have become a medical doctor if not for, if not that I lost my parents at an early age. So my colleagues today call me the doctor in the kitchen. I'm a chef by profession. I cook for people. I'm sure some of your viewers might have tasted my food in restaurants that they have eaten that I've happened to work with in the past. And so basically, that's me, Chef Elijah.
Interesting. Where do you see Africa in the next 5 to 20 years regarding your industry? That is, when it comes to the food industry, where do you see Africa?
It's quite interesting. When you take the catering, hospitality, tourism industry as a whole, Ghana over the years has made great strides, especially in the area of the tourism side, as well as the restaurants. And because we are becoming a middle income country, the people frequenting restaurants, hotels has increased so much until COVID-19 came in. I think what has been the unique thing about our hospitality industry before COVID-19 has been that the level of flow, it was now picking up. Now you have people sitting in the comfort of their home mobile app or through a website. They are able to order for their favorite food. Then COVID came in. COVID came in to test the resilience of our food and hospitality in that industry. And over the years, Food for All has equally preached about the inefficiencies of our food supply chain and the need for technology and as well as stakeholders working together to create a more sustainable, efficient supply chain. And I think COVID-19 has proven to be a test case scenario for what our food supply chain, especially the hospitality catering aspect, is supposed to look like. Because during the lockdown, many restaurants, many eateries, even our local chobbers couldn't actually operate, even though they were tagged as essential services and they were supposed to open and all that. But looking at the scale of the virus we are dealing with as a country, it has affected many businesses. And that now brings me to answering your question of how do I see it in the next few years. I feel if a lot of young people can learn from the challenges that COVID exposed to our food, catering, and hospitality industry, and then bridge that gap with consideration to technology, with consideration to efficiency among stakeholders within the food supply chain, the next few years will be bright. Our food system will be more coordinated, and above all, it will ensure that preparation, movement, and then consumption of food in Ghana will be quite efficient and affordable as well.
In the rise of Africa, we believe that most of the resources relating to agriculture comes from the African land. Why are we not making a name for ourselves? Why are we not making an impact when it comes to food and hospitality from Africa?
It has been more of how we have built on that culture, our food culture, our hospitality culture. When you take a country like France, for example, you visit France as a tourist, and no matter how proud you are of where you are coming from, you will still experience their food culture. You will experience, it is part of the full package you get as a tourist in France. And over the years, we have undermined that aspect of our. We haven't done so well to promote our local food. somewhere 2017, I was asked by a Ghanaian journalist why I chose, when I was being awarded by the Queen of England, and why I said Wachi. Don't I think Wachi is too local to as a choice of cuisine for someone like Her Majesty the Queen of England? I felt so sad by that question because I believe this is a journalist know that promoting our local cuisine is part of the recipes of pushing our tourism, our hospitality, as well as social development in Ghana. And I believe we haven't done so well in that area. All sectors of development, including the media, government, and as well individual and corporate organization. But Marco, to tell you an amazing experience I've seen in some restaurants. You know, most restaurants in Ghana are owned by expatriates.
Yes, most, especially those from the Asian side of the world.
Open this restaurant, and the kind of recipes they do are all foreign recipes. Yes. And you have Ghanaians who own restaurants, and instead of them to also think about Ghanaian recipes, they do the same because they feel the recipes need to be
more
foreign before they will be able to sell that much. But I've always said, when it comes to marketing food, it doesn't matter the ingredients or what is in it. What matters is the presentation of that food, how you present it, because we first and foremost get enticed to eat a certain food because of how we see it. I've seen people eating frog legs without knowing it was frog legs, just because of how it has been presented.
Myself,
and that is that is one area we haven't done well to in presenting in the way of plate presentation of our local meal.
What is the plan or the intended dream for the organization within Africa and the country of began with? Because food is all the major things that is a major problem in Africa. Hunger, I think Africa has the highest rate of hunger. What do you think is the way that your organization, that's Food for All Africa, is doing to push Africa to the next level?
Yeah. The problem with Africa is not that we are not producing enough food. Africa is producing more than needed in terms of food. We are the only continent that if you are a farmer, you can depend on rain and still have your crops growing. We are the continent that you eat pepper and you throw out the seeds from your mouth. The next day you see it germinating. So in terms of fertile land for production, food production, we have. In terms of conditions, to a certain extent, even in the face of climate change, we still have. But the issue has to do with during production, post-production, and then how food moves along the supply chain. The inefficiencies are so much. when you go to our rural areas, a smallholder farmer, after going through all the difficulties to get a crop and harvest, will have to sit for days and weeks waiting for the local market queen from the be at a very cheaper cost, because transportation of the food product from the rural area alone to the urban centers even takes more money than what the farmer gets in the crop that he has cultivated. So to address the inefficiencies, one, there needs to be stakeholder collaborations, which for us at Food for All, we have been pushing for. Then as well, there need to be a way, an advocacy and program that seeks to ensure that we address these challenges. So we do food here. So as I believe, if we can have a connection between stakeholders along the food supply chain, it will contribute immensely to empowering our smallholder farmers, as well as promoting our local cuisines.
What do you think is the major challenge for your industry in Africa? What is that major challenge?
The major challenge has to do with research, education. Research and education, in the sense that if this is consistently done, we will be able to know the impact of our hospitality, food and hospitality industry on our economy, contribution to GDP, contribution to employment, as well as it will be a good case study for future references, as well as in terms of education. I remember I was chatting with someone at a program, and I introduced myself as a chef. And the next thing that followed was, as for chefs, mostly they are people that after school they didn't get good grades and didn't know what to do, so they find themselves in the kitchen. And I felt a bit saddened, but then I felt it dwells on me as a responsibility to equally educate people in terms of the importance and role that chefs, caterers play in, first and foremost, our nutrition, our culinary, our hospitality, as well as
Chef Elijah, and he's giving us details on how we can take Africa to the next level relating to food and hospitality, and that is his industry. If you are watching us wherever you are, if you feel strongly about anything we are discussing on the show, please let your thoughts and messages come through our Facebook platform. That's Africa's Nest, a Facebook platform, Africa's Nest. Initially, you mentioned COVID-19, of which has been the world's biggest pandemic in the last close to a century. Take away the world wars, I think it has been one of the huge hit disease that have affected the world. Your industry has played a vital role in making sure that the virus doesn't spread. I remember in Ghana, when the president said that there was a lockdown, one of the few industries that were allowed to operate were the food and the delivery services. Was this a way for you to make a statement for the world to know that although you have been pushed most of the time to the background, people play a vital role in the development of a continent, of an economy?
Yeah, it is. It is to a certain level. If you look at the world over, before you narrow it down to Africa and then Ghana, you realize the food and hospitality industry actually was labeled as one of the essential service providers during the lockdown. However, due to people, the hospitality industry, the hospitality industry is known to bring people together. And this is a situation where people are supposed to be separated in order for our world to be saved. And so negatively, it is only when people come together. When people come together, they consume more and they pay more. And this during the lockdown, because people were supposed to be apart, even though hospitality companies like the hotels, restaurants were still supposed to operate, it affected us to quite a significant level, because now people are apart. The fear of who is even bringing the food from the restaurant to me in my house is there, as well as who is cooking the food equally was there. And because of the low level of research on the COVID-19 virus in the initial stages of the pandemic, it put a lot of fear in people. And that is why in some countries you have people actually stockpiling food ingredients so that in their homes, so that they will cook for themselves.
Can prepare their own food.
Yeah. However, I believe what I've said over the years is, if there is an efficiency within our food supply chain, in times of crisis like this, we will be very much prepared, because the system works. The system for food distribution, for food getting to the final consumer works. It will be best for us all. And it is one of the things I keep saying, that COVID-19 should be a test study to tell us that, look, we can build a consistent, efficient food system. This is actually opportunity. This will create employment. This will create opportunities for the youth and the future.
Were we ready? Ghana as a country, were we ready if the lockdown should have continued? Were we ready? Was our agricultural sector, our food distribution system, were we ready to face this pandemic?
We weren't at all, especially in the area of our food and agricultural sector. And if you look at researches that are coming out, even figures from the Ghana Statistics Authority, they tell you that between March and April, our inflation rate went high, especially inflation on food products went high. I've read a lot of studies on the impact of COVID-19 on food supply in Ghana, and we weren't ready at all. And I keep saying that the lockdown was lifted because of food. The unavailability of food during the lockdown was what necessitated the lockdown to be lifted, because people during the lockdown, Food for All was doing distributions in communities and rest. Wow. And you see people getting so agitated, people preferring to die from COVID-19 than die of hunger. And it's quite unfortunate that as a country at this age. But I believe it is a collective responsibility. Reason why I say that is, I was fortunate to be in Egypt somewhere November, December of last year, when the COVID-19 pandemic started in China. And it will amaze you that one thing I realized from the Egyptians were they they did simulation exercise on if an health crisis should rise up, how they would deal with it as a country through security, through their nutritional system. And it was amazing to see Cairo at that time used as an epicenter for a health crisis, should there be any. And I think it is one thing as a country we need to build simulation exercises around our food sector, around any area of our life as people, so that we can know that in times of crisis, we have prepared, if not to the highest level, at least to a certain degree, we are prepared to face uncertainties as they come in.
It's a certainty that COVID-19 has revealed a lot of loopholes in our food industry. But was there any cross-continental response or assistance worth noting from Food for All Africa? Was there any, apart from the various ones that you saw on the television, where your organization was constantly moving from communities to communities, dishing out food? Were there any cross-nation? Did you move to other countries to do that, or it was basically in Accra?
So it was, our distribution has been cross-country, and it has been in two folds. We actually was doing an average of 300 food boxes that contain basic ingredients weekly, and we were at a point doing 3,000. We were doing 3,000 hot meals to vulnerable people on our streets per day. As well as we covering Accra, we equally extended support to some areas like Kumasi, Volta region, Central region, parts of, we sent some packages even to the north, to some identified vulnerable communities, and of expertise as well, because we were going through a pandemic, and within communities, sometimes within communities, even in times of crisis, there are people who have, but how do those who don't have get to know who have access and willing to give? So we created platforms to connect people within communities with food to those within those same communities who are also in need of food. And we did this through WhatsApp, through our social media pages. We are able to identify people within certain communities who have food available and get them connected to those who don't have.
This should have been very difficult for financially and economically for your organization. What is the way forward post COVID-19? What is the way forward? Is this something that we're going to see you do to other sectors, or is basically because of the COVID-19, or something that we expect more from Food for All Africa?
So before COVID-19, Food for All Africa has been working with businesses to connect food to schools that are not under the National School Feeding Program. We've been connecting food to orphanages, and we've been doing this for the past 4 years. And that's why we were quite in a position to implement a Food for All COVID-19 community emergency intervention program. And our Food for All COVID-19 emergency intervention program was in two folds. So from March till April, we've done about 20,000 kilos of food, both hot meals and then food ingredients. This is almost 20 pounds of food to people. And the second part of the COVID-19 intervention program now is to focus on schools. We've been connecting to beneficiary schools through the heads of those schools. Once we get in touch with the heads, they are able to tell us in this area we have those communities. And as well, when they come back to school, we will still be extending food support to them through our school feeding program.
Just speaking to Chef, is the head of Food for All Africa, a non-profit social enterprise, and they're doing a fantastic job in Ghana and the continent at large. We are going for a quick commercial break, and we are back to continue the conversation. Remember, the Africa's Next main aim is to bring entrepreneurs who are making global impact to you so they can help motivate, inspire the new generation of entrepreneurs. Africa's Next is a product of Voice to the Nation, also break that silence. My name is Damakor Mensah. When we are back to continue our discussion with the food stylist.
Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next XPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
My name is Chef Elijah Amu Ado, founder of Food for All Africa program. I want to share with you my journey on traveling from Ghana across the world, cooking for the vulnerable and those who can afford food in society. In Ghana, Food for All creates sustainable means of nutrition for vulnerable children through food recovery. We cook recovered food to support children who can't afford food and because of that they are not in school, to have a means of nutrition and access to education. Traveling across Ghana and the developed world with my skill of cooking, I realized in Canada, where a lot of food goes waste along the supply chain, stakeholders within the supply chain work with community-based organizations to recover excesses to support homeless and vulnerable in the society. In England, I had the experience of visiting Jimmy Oliver Foundation, where food is used as a tool to empower vulnerable citizens, mostly youth, where food is used as a means of nutrition for the vulnerable as well. Connecting it to Ghana, where we operate Food for All, I realized if we can create a more sustainable means of nutrition and enact laws like the National Food Donors Encouragement Bill, the 1 out of 4 children who usually go to bed hungry can have a means to sustainable nutrition. Having the opportunity to receive a Queen's Young Leaders Award from the Queen of England, I was glad to share with her my experience in working along the food supply chain, and she proposed I cooked for her, which I chose wache, a local Ghanaian dish. It was an exciting experience to be meeting the Queen and having the opportunity to interact with her household in Buckingham Palace. This experience encourages me to do more towards creating sustainable means of nutrition for more children across Ghana and sub-Saharan Africa.
So we still live on Africa's Nest, and we're speaking to Chef Amo Ado. He's the head of Food for All Africa, and he's been giving us details about the impact that COVID-19 has had on Africa relating to its industry, the food and hospitality industry, and the general impact of its industry in making sure Africa gets to the level that we need to get to. Chef, welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's continue our conversation. This morning, we are going a bit private into your life. You are telling us that you wanted to be a doctor. How did the dream move from being a doctor from the hospital all the way to the kitchen? If you can give us a little background history of your upbringing and how the dream moved from a doctor to the chef in the kitchen.
Yes, so I was born into a family of 3 girls. I was the second born and the only boy. So I was quite close to my mother. And as the dream of every young growing up that I be, obviously I was going to be the medical doctor to take care of my parents and then my sisters when they are sick. However, at the tender age of 12, we all of a sudden lost my mom to sickness, and then in some few months later, I lost my dad as well. And so I became an orphan, left in the care of my grandma. And life all of a sudden took a sudden turn, and I had to go and stay with my auntie in Nigeria in order to be able to further my education. And whilst in Nigeria, I took up a job as a kitchen cleaner. After school, I go and work as a kitchen cleaner in a restaurant.
What age was this? What age was this?
This was at the age of 12.
Wow.
Yes. And when I come from school, I go to the restaurant to work in the evening. And then at the end of the month, get some money to support myself, support that, send back home to support my sisters. And one day I was in a hurry to go home. So I threw away a sauce that the chef had prepared, thinking he didn't need it. It was close to the sink where I wash the plates as a kitchen cleaner. And so when I threw the sauce away, the chef got so furious, angry at me, and then started throwing plates and spoons and fork at me. I was able to dodge as many as I can, but I felt so sad. I started crying. And as I was crying, I burst out, do you think if my mom was to have been alive, I will be here cleaning for you when my colleagues are in school? And this statement touched the heart of the chef. He then got to understand who I am, what I am. So he became a mentor. He became to the point where he opened up his kitchen for me. Whenever he wants to do something, all he needs to tell me is, I want to do mayonnaise. And the next thing, I'll pick all the ingredients from the store, wherever it is, and place on his working table. So I make the work very easier for him. So after school, when I found it very difficult, I Ghana to complete SS. And at the point after JHS, I came back to Ghana to complete SS. And then after SS, my father's family, my relatives from my father's side were of the view that I should become a teacher. And it was a very critical moment in my life that I never forget. That because the choice I would have made that at that point in my life would have determined the course of my destiny. And it was a very hard decision, but I'm always grateful to that incidence of throwing plates at me. That, yeah, because I had to go at a point, the pressure on what to do with my life was so much that I had to move back to Nigeria. And when I went back to Nigeria, this same restaurant where I worked as a kitchen cleaner accepted me back because the chef was still there. And I told him that I've completed my school and now this is what my relatives are saying I should do. This is what they can help me to become. But that's not what I want to become. And excuse me, what does he think I want to become? And I was like, well, if I had gone and come back here, because whilst I was in school, it was the same job, but then as a kitchen cleaner that was helping me to support myself and then my younger siblings. So if he then advised me that he thinks I would be a very good cook, so he mentored me again and then he helped me to have my vocational training in Lagos and then became a cook. So after becoming a cook, I rose through the ranks to become a chef de partie until I got a lucrative offer to come back to Ghana to work as a sous chef of a restaurant. And that was how I ended up as a doctor in the kitchen.
In the kitchen. Impressive, impressive. And from what you said, that means everybody needs a mentor who can, one way or the other, direct their career to a particular line.
Yes, and one thing I've always thanked God for in the few moments I've had with my mom while she was alive was she taught me the way of identifying a helper. She said, everyone in this life has an helper, and that helper is your mentor. All you need to do is go out there and find that helper. Whatever you want to become, remember that someone has become that already. And if you really have the passion to become what you want to be, you would definitely identify who is out there. It's a natural phenomenon. It happens. It just clicks. You would definitely identify that person who can be a mentor to you. Like I said, when I think about how I was able to identify that mentor who made me become a chef, it came through a source, throwing away of a source. Then I realized there was something that connected us. Apparently, that chef actually was also once an orphan. Everyone needs a mentor in this life. I believe everyone needs a mentor, and possibly best to go look out for, because there are people out there who are willing to mentor us as well.
So we would like to know, when did you really realize that you wanted to do something on your own? You wanted to be an entrepreneur and stop working for others? What age did you realize that, and what prompted you to go into your own business?
It all started somewhere 2014 when I felt it also was by an accident. Actually, I had this mentally challenged man, comes food every morning and then goes on the street to share. And one day I asked him why he does that, and he told me, Semanya Winebe, meaning if he doesn't do it, who will? And for me, that is where I started thinking, well, it's not just about feeding those who can afford food, but equally, it shows that there's a problem somewhere. So my interest within the food, and I started working around it, started with the foundation, and then grew on to become what is known. Yes, so as a social enterprise, we basically create a model that is both beneficial to our partners, which are the businesses in the food supply chain, even those that are not within the food supply chain, as well as our beneficiaries. So for us, the sole objective of any marketing campaign we undertake has to do with, first and foremost, impact community, and then above all, to the social good of society. And people do ask us sometimes, do we think social good makes money? And I tell people that once it is a problem you are solving, it should be able to create revenue.
Wow, impressive. What's the next step for Food for All Africa? After here, what's next?
Sorry. So for us, the next strategic growth stage we're taking post-COVID-19 actually is to, this year being our 5th year, we had amazing plans for the year, but we had to now redesign our strategic plan for the next 5 years to post-COVID season. And for us, what we are focusing now on, creating renutrition for students, especially school children, schools that are not under the school feeding program, and also making the act of food charity interesting and amazing. And we have exciting programs and events coming up.
Wow, impressive. I'm hoping that all these plans can come to play, and we seek to enjoy the benefits or the fruits of the good work you're doing for the community. What has been, you're talking about 5 years, so far, what has been the biggest challenge for Food for All Africa relating to you dishing out your activities? What has been the biggest constraint?
So unlike other NGOs or non-profits that operate in Ghana, when we started more from the social enterprise space, and a lot of people didn't understand what social entrepreneurship meant. For us to educate or to let people know, prove to people how our model as a social enterprise works. And as well as we needed to, even to a certain level, authorities or government agencies to understand how the model we operate works. So that was quite challenging. However, and interesting as well, affording us with a lot of opportunities.
Wow, that's impressive. Can we talk about your name? That the organization doesn't only limit its services to Ghana. The plan and the dream is to go to all of the continent and spread. As an entrepreneur from Ghana, what has been that connection that has pushed your company beyond the boundaries of Ghana? You know, they always say that connections is the fuel of any industry. What are those connections? Why should entrepreneurs build on intra-country connections?
Very important when it comes comes to growth and when it comes to quite critical to build connections beyond your confines. And for us at Food for All Africa, one of our key strategic objectives has been to extend the services we run to other parts of the continent. And so from the word go, it's been part of our operational strategic plan. And equally, what it builds is challenging. However, we leverage on conferences in other parts of the continent. We leverage on connections to build greater network and then introduce what we do to those places.
We're still talking about Africa as a whole. Do you think Africans really understand this entrepreneurship thing? Are we okay? Do we really understand? Because from reports, one of the major problems of entrepreneurship on the continent is the continuity. When somebody starts a business, they work out very well, but when the person is no longer there, continuity is a major constraint. Do you think we understand entrepreneurship as like the West do understand entrepreneurship?
I believe we do. What I see quite challenging is the climate in which we operate as entrepreneurs. It's as if most odds are against us when it comes to that, when it comes to entrepreneurship.
The constraint relating to entrepreneurship in Africa.
Yes, so in terms of entrepreneurship on the continent, I believe for the younger generation, it is something that is quite new in the sense that we are now trying to understand the basics, because our educational system over the years have taught us to come out and work for people, to come out of school and then ask yourself, okay, now what do I do with my life? But in the last 5 years, looking at the many challenges faced with Africa, we are getting to understand that it's actually opportunities that come. And I believe there have been critical, notable people who we on the continent that we can today look up to. We can talk about the Dangotes, we can talk about the Prince Amwabins. What I find it very sad is the climatic nature that as African entrepreneurs we need to grow in, the odds that are against us. I tell people that I respect an African entrepreneur who has made it. I kind of respect the level of respect I have for such an entrepreneur is more than and would always be more than an entrepreneur who broke through in the West, because there are the conditions, that enabling environment that makes it easier for them. But in Africa it's quite a different ballgame. But we believe growing up we would learn from it, and subsequent people who will go into leadership positions, especially in the area of governance, can create that enabling environment for African entrepreneurs to thrive.
Wow, impressive. We are speaking to Chef Elijah, and he's a celebrated chef and a food stylist, and he has been giving details on what we need to know to take Africa to the next level as entrepreneurs who have made it, and the young entrepreneurs who are about to take the continent by storm. Remember, Africa's Next is a show brought to you by Voice to the Nation in collaboration with Break the Silence organization. My name is Marco Mensah. We're going for our last commercial break. When we come back, what we'll be doing is that Chef will be telling us things that he is bringing on board to mentor Africa's next generation. Enjoy. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this. So, welcome back to Africa's Next, your number one entrepreneur mentoring show this side of the world. And what we set to do is to connect entrepreneurs who are making a global impact and who have made a name for themselves in the various industries, and young entrepreneurs who are set to take the continent and the world by storm. Let's continue our discussion, and we are talking about mentors. As a mentor, what is that one thing that you are bringing on board to help promote or to help elevate our Africa's next entrepreneurs?
That which I believe and I've always worked on is passion. Passion is critical when it comes to mentorship. Both the mentor and the mentee needs to have a certain sense of connection, and that connection dwells on the passion, because if I love kinky, I believe my mentee happens to also be someone who loves kinky. We have a common ground on which the conversation and then the mentoring can start on. So for me, that is what I bring in, and especially passion in the area of my interest. The things that I have passion for is quite key in identifying a mentee, because that will be the only way I can positively impact someone.
So if you love kinky, then this is a good opportunity for you to go to our Facebook page and choose Chef Elijah as your mentor, and I'm sure you walk you through the right path. Chef, we are wrapping up on our show today. What are your last words for the young entrepreneurs spread across the continent who are watching Africa's Next? Who do you think, or what do you think they should watch out for when they are selecting their mentors?
So, my advice to young people, becoming entrepreneurs, is when you're choosing a mentor, look out for a mentor who has the same passion grounds like you. And equally, it takes a lot of hard work and perseverance. Rome was never built in a day implies that your vision will take time and effort to be able to reach where you want to be. Any entrepreneur, if not, you will fall along the way.
So it's a wrap for us today on the show. Once a big thank you to our guest for today, Chef Elijah Amoado. Also thank you to our sponsors, Voice to the Nations and Break the Silence organization. A special thank you to you, our audience, for staying tuned in. And our heartfelt thanks goes out to our production staff and crew. You guys, absolutely, you are the best. Remember to send a message to Africa's Next on Facebook, indicating the mentor you would like to be paired with to learn from. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to come your way again, same time next week, with another exciting interview with another incredible mentor. You have been with me, the Marco Mensah on Africa's Next, where we are mentoring and empowering Africa's next superpower generation. Thank you for staying tuned in.